Welcome to Let's Talk Special. I am your host, Brittany Major. Today with us is Brandelyn, and we are going to be discussing her experience prior to finding a diagnosis. So thank you, Brandelyn, so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, so you were my first interview. So you're kind of kickstarting the whole journey with me. So I really appreciate it.
Sure.
Yeah. All right. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah. Well, trying to think about myself. Everything's kind of centered around my child, so you kind of forget about who you are really. But I have a child who's going to be turning 3 in a couple. Well, actually next week, and he was diagnosed with hypotonia. So he also has a genetic mutation that causes ataxia. He has a mutation of the CAMTA1 gene. And a lot of people aren't familiar with ataxia. It has similar symptoms to cerebral palsy, spasticity of the muscle, a lot of swaying and instability. So on top of the hypotonia, he suffers from that as well.
Do you have a healthy, normal pregnancy?
No, actually, I did not. I had every symptom you could imagine, everyone in the book, but I also went into preterm labor at 30 weeks. I was hospitalized for 2 days. We were able to stop the contractions, thankfully. I was out of state, so that was scary as well. And then as soon as I flew back, up until then, I had a healthy pregnancy in terms of the baby in utero was growing fine. No signs of any concerns. But as soon as I came back, and after I went into preterm labor, he stopped growing in the womb. So we found that out probably around 32 weeks, and I ate as much as I could, even though I was sick the whole 9 months. I was forcing food down, trying to plump my little baby up. Nothing was working. He just wasn't growing. So we were going to induce and get him out. Try to give him formula or whatever we could. But I actually ended up before my induction. I felt like something was wrong. So I went to my doctor. I asked them. She wasn't in yet. I asked the nurses to hook me up to some machines. I wasn't in pain, but I had a feeling that something was wrong. So it turns out his heart was stopping. Something was going on where with the umbilical cord that I don't think something was going on with the uterus, and his heart rate kept going down. So they rushed us to the hospital. We ended up doing an emergency C-section, and that was, and then he was fine after that. But so the pregnancy, there were some complications there.
That's crazy because it's very similar to mine.
Wow.
I had hyperemesis, and then I don't know what the last word, it's HG that I had during my pregnancy. So I was actually on a Zofran pump until almost 21 weeks of pregnancy because I was just super sick.
And I was on Zofran too.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I was throwing up until 9 months. I was sick the entire time.
Yeah. Thankfully, mine stopped around the 21 weeks, but it was horrible the first, what is that? I mean, I went into the second trimester. And then I went into early labor at 30 weeks. And that's when, that's when my doctor put me on bed rest. Well, it was a light bed rest, but
me as well. Yeah.
Weren't progressing. That's crazy because it's.
Yeah. I had to go down part-time at work and just do very little. But yeah, it was very light bed rest. I wasn't in bed all the time, but I was supposed to just do as little as possible.
Yeah. Okay. And when he was born at how many weeks?
He was born at 38 weeks.
Okay.
So he wasn't a preemie, right. He was super tiny, but he was pretty much full term. So yeah.
At what point? So when he was born, did the doctors have any concern, or did he seemed like a healthy baby?
Seemed like a healthy baby. I was only in the hospital for 2 days. I came home, and after that, as soon as I came home, I mean, he screamed and screamed. I mean, not just cried, screamed for 12 hours a day, every waking moment. He never stopped crying for 4 months, basically, never stopped crying. So I had some concerns that something was wrong. They said that he just had colic. So I tried different pediatricians because I said it's not just colic. I went to lactation nurses because I said, is he maybe not getting enough nutrients? And of course, we were trying to plump him up because he was, close to 4 pounds when we brought him home. He was gaining weight, thankfully, because he was almost failure to thrive, but he gained weight in that first week. So thankfully, we didn't have to go back or do feeding tubes or anything like that. But it turns out he had horrible reflux, and they kept saying he'll grow out of it. But I knew in my gut he wasn't growing out of this because it was so severe. I couldn't lay him down. I held him the entire 4 to 6 months because if I even slightly laid him down, he would spit up. Even to change his diaper, sometimes my husband would have to hold him up while I was changing his diaper to keep the food down, because we were trying to get him to gain weight. I was breastfeeding, and then he kept spitting up, and we needed to thicken his liquid, so I would pump, and then I would do the rice cereal and try to thicken it up that way. And then eventually we moved to the alimentum, and I was doing half formula, half breast milk, and then finally just the alimentum because it was thicker, and the rice cereal. So we battled with the reflux for the first 4 months, and finally, after speaking to a gastroenterologist and getting him on the right medications, they were giving us medications, but he was spitting them out. So for 4 months, trying to get different medications, trying to get him to take the medication. And then finally, it was as simple as flavoring the medication. And then after that, it was that simple.
Yeah.
And seeing, different specialists. After that, the crying kind of lessened. And then I could kind of start to see what was going on with him in other arenas. Like, and now looking back, and he still has reflux because of that valve is a muscle, and we know hypotonia doesn't. Our muscles don't work the way the rest of ours do. So so that was the first symptom of his hypotonia, really.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And when did you start noticing, you said around 4 months when you started noticing the hypotonia?
Yeah, and even when I was asked this question, I remembered because our washer and dryer wasn't working. I was at the laundromat, and I had to take my son with me. And there was another baby there who was around the same age, between 3 and 4 months. And she was sitting or standing on, the mom was holding her, but kind of standing on the mom's lap. And I thought, my child can't hold himself up like that. Like, his muscles just seem so floppy.
Yeah.
And I just thought, something kind of triggered me. Like, he's not doing that. He doesn't look the same. And then I made a friend with a neighbor across the street whose daughter is within 2 weeks of the same age as my son. We just happened to bump into each other and had children the same age. We would go for walks in the neighborhood. And I would look at her daughter. This was at 5 months, and she could pick up her pacifier and put it in her mouth. And my son didn't have the motor skill to do that. And I thought, his motor skills don't seem the same as some of these other babies that I'm seeing. I would go to the library often. I could walk to the library, and they do these story times and stuff. And so when I could leave the house when he was not crying, I could see other children around the same age as him. And I thought, he can't really do any of these things. And so I kind of chalked it up to, maybe it's because this is my first child. I've been around other children, but not really newborns, So I just kind of chalked it up to, it's because he's been held all of his life, that he wasn't acquiring these skills, because of the reflux. I was holding this baby 24/7. So I thought maybe he just hasn't built up the muscle yet, or hasn't had a chance to exercise or lay down. I couldn't do the tummy time because of the reflux, but I have heard that children with hypotonia have a hard time doing the tummy time, holding themselves up. So I worked on tummy time every day, even with the crying. He couldn't withstand it, So I had my concerns around 5 months, and I thought, well, we go back to the doctor at 6 months. I'll just wait until we go to our doctor's appointment. And I went to the doctor's appointment, and I didn't want to say anything to the doctor. I wanted the doctor to examine him and tell me what she saw. I didn't bring it
Yeah.
up. I waited till the end, and then I said, "You're not noticing?" And I remember being in the waiting room and seeing other kids for their checkup, sitting up, doing these things that my child, I mean, he couldn't sit up, he couldn't roll, he couldn't move. So, so I, sorry. So anyway, I waited, and she didn't say anything. And I thought, I said, he doesn't seem to be displaying any fine motor skills, gross motor skills. Are you noticing that? Did you notice that? And she just quickly said, if you have concerns, then there's an infants and toddlers program through Montgomery County, the county we live in, call them, get an evaluation, and go from there.
My first sign was when my son was about, I would say, I think it was 6 days. We were doing our family photos for the newborn pictures. And it took hours for us to get these photos because he kept looking up. And it wasn't like a normal look up. And I had this feeling in my gut, and I was like, why is he doing that? And at the second week appointment, I brought it up to the doctor, and she goes, well, every kid, their eye, because his eyes would kind of drift and look all over. And she said, well, some kids are different. It takes them a while for them to focus. But that was my first indication. And I had worked with kids, and he was my second child, and it was completely different than our daughter or other kids that I had worked with. So I had this feeling of also, the floppiness. He felt very floppy. We held him. He didn't have good neck control. Our doctor, I'd say it was like 2 months where she said, yeah, I can see it, but every kid's different. 4 months, that's the first time that she said the word hypotonia. And they don't explain that to you. The way she explained it is, he has hypotonia. I said, well, what is that? She goes, that's just low tone. Let's start him on physical therapy and let's strengthen that. And I'm like, as a parent, you don't know what low tone means. You're like, okay, well, it's just.
Yeah, I had never heard of it before.
Yeah.
I had never heard of it before.
Yeah, so me and my husband were like, okay, physical therapy, let's start it. He's going to get stronger. He's going to catch up. We just didn't really understand what that meant when she was saying low tone, because she just said it very nonchalant.
Yes. And I think there's a spectrum of hypotonia. I think you can have low tone and be perfectly fine. It's hardly recognizable, minimal symptoms. And then you can go for years, some children on feeding tubes, not being able to move, not being able to talk, so everybody progresses at a different rate. And I think that the prognosis, it's hard because you don't really have a prognosis. Nobody can tell you. And I think that's the hard part. Nobody can tell. You can't just take a pill or have surgery. In some cases, yes, if it's caused by, a tumor, a brain tumor, but nobody can tell you that your child is going to do this by this time. You just have to keep working.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
When she referred you to that other doctor, is that when they first voiced their concerns as well?
Yeah. So I went through the county, and our physical therapist Janice came out. A wonderful woman. She came out, did her evaluation, and they go through their checklist, and he qualified for getting services. And so we started him on physical therapy by 7 months old. We started speech therapy right away as well.
Oh, okay. So they were able to do speech therapy at 7 months?
Yeah, I mean, by the time we got rolling and got our stuff going, I mean, he was probably 9 months, but I mean, because he wasn't talking, I mean, just by pointing at picture books and just to get verbal communication, at the very minimal level.
Yeah. Okay.
So, go ahead. Sorry.
No, go ahead.
Okay. But so we did the physical therapy. He didn't roll over like a complete revolution until he was 9 months old. He did not roll over. It's funny you mentioned the neck thing because I completely forgot. Yeah, he couldn't hold his neck up. He had torticollis as well.
Yep.
And so, I contributed it to that at first. But he finally started rolling over, and then he couldn't sit unassisted until he was about 15 months old. Couldn't sit
Okay.
up. Then started kind of crawling a little bit after that. And then he finally started to kind of stand, pulled stand, and take a few steps on his own when he was around 2 years old.
Okay.
And then when he started taking those first steps, he was very wobbly. And being on this hypotonia support group, I had noticed that other kids weren't as wobbly as he was. And so then I sparked another thing. Um, he doesn't look like everybody else, and something is off, something is wrong there. And his coordination was really off. I just contributed everything to his hypotonia. Even when he crawled, it was constant anxiety because he wouldn't motor plan correctly, and he would just face plant into the floor.
Yeah.
So a lot of bloody noses and lips and that kind of thing. So I was almost afraid to have him I mean, I couldn't have him crawling anywhere except for like a padded carpet.
Yeah.
But and I do want to say that we also got services independent of the county as well. We went to private therapy, so we doubled up on therapy. We were getting occupational therapy, speech therapy, physical therapy, a couple times a week through the county, and then a couple times a week privately at different clinics.
Okay.
So he was making, good progress, but we, therapy 4 to 6 times a week for years. So,
Wow.
so when he started walking, then my physical therapist, Janice, that worked through the county, I said, Janice, did you notice? And I remember it was around Christmas time. So, all of our therapists, they deserve breaks and holidays too.
Yeah.
So, I hadn't seen her for a few weeks. And I said, I'll just wait until I see her. And she said, yeah, he's displaying signs of ataxia. And then I have no idea what ataxia is. I don't know what that means. And then you go into the internet and down Google and that whole web. And that was very frightening. So we had to circle back to neurology and genetics and all that. And then that's when we found out about his mutation.
Okay. And what test did they run when you had gone to the neurologist? Did they do an MRI or did they do a genetic test?
Yeah, all of that. So we kind of started over. We thought we were done with testing because when he was a year old, we did the MRI for the hypotonia to find the cause of the hypotonia. So we did blood work and the MRI then, and they just called it congenital hypotonia. There was no specific cause that they could find. He didn't have a tumor, nothing like that. So then a year later now, again, we're around the first of the year, and we went to a physical medicine doctor, we went to a neurologist, and we saw a geneticist, and we did genetic testing, and we did another MRI to see if he had cerebral palsy. They did a MRI of his spine, and we also did an x-ray of his hips just to figure out like what was causing all the instability.
Okay. That's nice that they ran so many tests to see.
Yeah, we were for a couple years in and out. Every couple months, it seemed like doing something to him to try and figure out what was wrong.
Yeah.
But as a mother, you search for answers.
Yep.
You advocate and you search for answers, and you don't stop until somebody can tell you what is going on. And if you don't like the answer, you keep searching, you keep going, and you find someone who will give you the answers.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And with us, our son at 4 months old, we started him on PT because they also said, well, he has torticollis on the left side. And
yes.
Yeah, and we were saying, they were like, well, maybe you're putting him in containers too often. So we're like, all right, containers, we're done. In containers, we mean like the sitting toys, stuff that's where he's not really working on his muscles. So we got those. We started the physical therapy, and I kind of felt like I was being blamed in a way. That's how it was being positioned, that you're putting him in too many containers. He's in the containers for too long. So I was like, that's not it. And I kept saying, that's not it. He's not in the containers that often. I know. And I had that strong feeling ever since we were doing those family photos that there was something different. And we started physical therapy. He was rolling over at 4 months. He rolled over from his back to his front, and then at 6 months from his front to his back, which is like the opposite. But he was rolling over, doing those things, but he wasn't able to sit. His head, holding his head up was a struggle for him. And then at 6 months, that's when our doctor said, let's refer you to a neurologist to see if there's something else going on. And then they did the MRI, and she first mentioned cerebral palsy. So she was like, I think something might have happened, that won't be corrected. And that was probably like the hardest 2 weeks ever of her telling us that, of voicing such serious concerns with something probably happened while you were pregnant that we're not going to be able to correct, to the time that we got those MRI results. And I remember we were actually at an eye appointment. I don't know, does your child have, our son has palsy of the sixth nerve on the left eye. Does your child have that, or?
No, he has an nystagmus in his left eye.
Okay.
And in fact, we were debating on whether to give him an MRI, being so young, and sedating him. We were very concerned about that. And then, all these symptoms come up with hypotonia. You start to find, I feel like every couple of months there's like a new diagnosis or symptom that you're correcting or working on, or you find. And so our ophthalmologist said, if I were you, I would get the MRI, because, this is a concern for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We were at the doctor's office because it was Halloween that we were going to get his diagnosis. The MRI results were in, but we were at the ophthalmologist and we read what the report said because we had gotten it in our email. He was very quiet. And we went on Google.
Oh, I know. It's hard.
Like you said, Google is the worst.
Yeah.
And my husband kept asking, he's like, what does it say? What does it say? And I just told him it's wrong. It's wrong. This can't be what our son has. Like, we're just going to have to wait till we talk to the neurologist.
We don't know what the future looks like. And I think that's the hardest part is we don't know. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of what keeps you up at night, and as a mom, you want to fix it,
It is hard. A lot of conditions, the doctors can't do what your future is going to look like, what your child's future is going to look like, because all of our kids are so unique. They may have a diagnosis, but their symptoms are different. Their outcome is different. So I remember our doctor, she wasn't very familiar with PCH. PCH is also a rare condition. But what she said that stuck with me to this day is she said she is glad she doesn't have a crystal ball and she can't tell us what the future looks like. But what she could tell us is that our son is going to be exactly who he was meant to be. And it is hard accepting that you don't know what their future is going to look like. But I have found comfort in he is exactly who he was supposed to be. And, we have those images of our kids when we're pregnant of what their future is going to be like, who they're going to be. And I had to step back and really think, Brittany, that was your son. who you were thinking he was going to be was not him. It wasn't ever going to be him. Major is, and your son is amazing. They are going to overcome amazing things. And not knowing what their future looks like, to me, it was hard, but now it's a little bit liberating because I don't have any limitations on him. You know, it's like, you are going to do what you're going to do. And I, like you said, keeping that faith that eventually they're going to get there. And in this community, there's no timeline. You can't say because my
Right.
son's walking at 4 that he's never going to walk, because we see these kids starting to walk at 9, 10. So
Yeah.
exactly what you said, keeping that hope that eventually they will get there on their own time.
Yeah.
So,
That's kind of enlightening to me that you say that, you know, just kind of letting go what you thought that they would be, because you know, I'm like, he's gonna play soccer, lacrosse, just like his father, and he's gonna, you know, he's gonna go here, he's gonna, you know, even picturing what he's gonna like. I mean, I don't know what he's gonna like, whether he has a disability or not, you know.
yep.
And all these things we do as parents, and you know, you kind of have their life mapped out for them, and even if they were typical kids, I mean, they may not have followed that plan either way. So it's interesting. I like that you said that. That was something I needed to hear, and so thank you. And you know, I know that when I do look at him and I look into his eyes, and I see his soul and I see the person he is, he's just perfect, you know. He was meant for me. This is my son. I was meant to have him. I couldn't imagine having any other child, because, you know, it's not what his body can or cannot do, but his soul was made for me, and I was meant to be his mom, and he is just amazing. I mean, the things he can do with what he's been given, he amazes me every day. The steps he takes and the things he says now, and he is funny, and he is such a character, and he makes me laugh every day, and he doesn't know that anything's wrong with him, and and you know, he's just such a joy. I mean, he's 3, and so and we're quarantined, and he's not always a joy. But that sometimes makes me feel like this is stuff I can relate to with my other mom friends that don't have children with special needs. We can laugh about him being 3 and throwing tantrums, and I'm actually thankful that, you know, I can kind of share these moments and relate, like, you know, he's driving me nuts, you know, type of thing, and the things we laugh about as mothers and parents and have to put up with, you know, because they don't get all the other hard medical stuff, you know. But he's definitely special and beautiful, and you know, I mean, what a fighter. These kids, you know, they have to work so hard. They don't, you know, I get, you know, I often feel bad because, you know, when other kids are, you know, going to dance class or doing all these extracurricular things and hobbies, you know, and we spend all our time at the clinics, you know. But these therapists are real special, and they make it fun. Like, this is our playtime, you know, and this is us getting out of the house and you know, trying to enjoy ourselves, and the things they do to motivate these kids and make it fun for them, and they just treat them so amazingly that you know. So that's what we do, and we will find his passion. We will find what he can do and things he loves, and it may be something sedentary. It may be, you know, coloring, art, music. You know, we'll find what works for him, because I thought he would be playing soccer, you know, but, you know, maybe art class and maybe music, and, you know, we'll find what he can do, and something that he can build confidence and enjoy. So so it may change, but yeah, he's amazing.
Regardless if they have a diagnosis or if they're typical or not, they set their own path. We get to set that path for them. So
yes,
I know that your child's going to find what your child loves. Your child has a huge purpose. Same with Major. He's totally into wheels. So I don't know. Maybe he's going to do something, surrounded around wheels. I joke with my husband because we have this. Have you heard of a crawligator?
no.
So if you haven't heard of a crawligator, it's amazing. You can find it on Amazon. And our son, he army crawls, but he's not crawling on all fours. So this is a tool to kind of help him crawl on all fours. Well, he loves balls and he loves wheels. So this is like a perfect combination for him. So he'll scoot around on this crawligator and he'll bat this ball. And when you look at his face, he is serious about it. It is like competition to him because he'll chase after this ball, and then when he goes to bat it, the look on his face, because he's like, so serious. So I joke with my husband. I was like, he's gonna make his own sport for special needs kids.
Yes, yeah. Liam loves balls. Yeah, Liam loves balls, and he'll find any way to make a game out of balls. He throws balls to his Nana, and he made a game, Nana Go Fetch, and so she goes to run and get them, and he likes to throw, and so they will find their passion, and I feel like it's our job just to encourage it and help them grow confidence and just be there to support them and do what we can. Yeah.
Well, what is one thing that you can give to parents out there, just some advice, maybe something that you wish that you knew while you were trying to find the diagnosis, something that you learned?
I think my advice to parents that are wondering if something's wrong is just ask questions. If you're not finding answers, if you're not getting the answers that you want, if the answers aren't good enough, if you still feel like something's wrong, don't be afraid to question your doctors. Don't be afraid to question the pediatrician. It's called a practice of medicine. So they may not have the answers, but keep looking, keep searching, keep advocating for your child. You have to fight for these kids, fight for some appointments sometimes, and just don't give up. Join support groups, ask questions. We have a wonderful community on our hypotonia support group. I'm so thankful for. Get support and ask questions. People are willing to help. Ask your pediatrician, doctors for other resources. Just look for as many resources as you can, and just keep researching and just do the best you can, and just keep going every day. It's hard, but just keep searching, just keep looking, just keep fighting, and and you'll get there eventually, and you'll find a way to navigate through the special needs world.
Yeah, and for me, like trusting your gut, because we were born with an amazing gift as mothers, and I know
I never knew it.
Well, but our intuition is dead on.
They say mother's intuition, and I had no idea. I believed them when they said it.
Yeah.
They, whoever they are, everybody says it. Until you become a mother, it's amazing the intuition you have about your child. Nobody knows your child like you do.
Yeah. And so if I've voiced concerns, and people are like, just give him a chance. He's only
he'll catch up.
He'll catch up. Yeah. Every kid's different, but trust that feeling that you have, and like you said, keep searching for those answers, and if you don't find it, find another doctor that will find it. And I'm thankful for you guys, because I know and I would love a man's perspective, but I do see a lot of moms on these support groups. But I had to find you guys. There's so much hope that I have received with watching other kids, and seeing the capabilities that they're able to do. And it gives you so much hope. I love watching all of our kids, and there is nothing like the bond of a special needs parent.
Yes,
We are
absolutely.
able to relate with each other, and I may never meet your guys' kids, some people where I've met those connections, but I root for all of your guys' kids. When I see them, like, you go, like, prove them wrong,
It's amazing.
It's so enlightening, and I'm very thankful for you guys, and I'm thankful that you decided to go on this journey with me, because this show would not even be possible if it wasn't for all of you guys. So I cannot thank you enough, and you being open and sharing your experience, just thank you.
Well, thank you for having me, and thank you for doing this, because we all need this. It's therapeutic. It helps to share your story, and it helps to talk with other parents of special needs children, because our friends and family, they do their best, but to support you, but there's nothing like the support of another special needs parent. And as soon as I got on this group, I mean, things changed for me mentally, and emotionally, and it's just so helpful. And I do too. I love seeing these kids, do things that we work so hard to just get these little movements and these little victories, and they're so special to us. And you could tell somebody else, like, oh, my child like moved his head, or rolled halfway, or can pick up a spoon and put it in his mouth, or and those are huge things to us. And we know what that means. So it's great to share, and it's great to see.
Yes, it is. I shared, because my son started a couple months ago climbing up on a couch cushion, and I was this hot mess of a mom, like tears, and I'm posting, and I was like, he fell over, he got all up, and we understand, we completely appreciate. It may seem small to somebody else, like, oh, he climbed over a couch cushion. It's like, that's huge for us. We've been working for that. That's like
months.
Go, so it's a whole
understand
system. Yeah,
it's great. It's so great to have. So thank you to you and everybody out there.
Thank you so much. And I know that you're moving right now, so you have a busy day ahead of you. So
yes, that's why I'm in the car. It's a little hectic in the house, and your kids will find you anywhere. So I mean, there's no way I'd have an hour-long conversation in my home with my child.
So thank you for
making
it
the car.
Making it a priority, making it work. We might have had some glitches. I love talking with you today. And again, thank you.
Yeah, thank you, and be safe, and hope everybody has a good new year.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you so much for joining us today for our very first interview with Brandelyn, as we discussed her experiences prior to receiving her son's diagnosis. This was our first interview, so there were a little bit of glitches, but I really appreciate your guys' patience, and I promise it will only get better from here. But I feel that there was a lot of great insight from that conversation that we had today. So hopefully you were able to take away something good that made your situation a little bit better, or some things that you weren't aware of that maybe also helped you out. So please join us next week. We are going to talk to Angela, and we are going to discuss her struggles with finding the right doctor that was going to fight to find her child's diagnosis. Thank you again so much for tuning in. Until next week, have a blessed rest of your day.